So we're going to change just a little bit for a minute here. I really wanted you to see this video. I think it's exciting. I think you'll be excited about the rest of our program when you see it. So let's watch this just 1 minute video clip, and then I'll introduce the next part of the program, okay? So check this out, please.
I've had people that have told me that high school students couldn't create flight hardware.
This locker is going to go up to the International Space Station, so the locker has to meet very, very stringent requirements.
You want to make sure everything is right. If something happens, my name is also attached to that now.
So we're lucky enough to have Jeremy Bout here with us today. He's going to talk to you all personally in about 20 minutes. He's the founder and creator of Edge Factor that you saw there, and that's something for you to look forward to in just a few minutes here. Next, I'm going to introduce your host for the next portion of the session. Ingrid Ellerby is the Senior Vice President at Base11, and Ingrid's going to introduce the next speakers and take us through the next part of the program. Join me in welcoming Ingrid.
Welcome back. First, a little bit of housekeeping. I'd like to ask everybody, I understand we had a little bit of difficulty in getting folks to our Facebook page, so we want to make sure we have lots of folks in there for the raffle. So on Facebook, just go to Base11 and click on Events, and you can check in right there. All right, so our next three spotlight presentations are going to represent the perspective of students, academia, and industry. First up, I'm really pleased to introduce our folks from Caltech, David Huynh. He and his colleagues, Arnaud Defoe, Ryan Song, and Kong Wang, are graduate students in the Aerospace department at Caltech, and they're mentors in the Base11 Caltech partnership. Together with Base11, they created AMP, which is called, also known as the Aerospace Mentorship Program. This program is designed to help prepare students for their future education and careers in STEM through a variety of different activities they do during their fellowship program. So at this time, I'd like to bring up David.
Thanks, Ingrid. Hi, I'm David, and as mentioned, I'm one of the mentors in the Caltech Base11 AMP. And today I'd like to talk about one of the core ideas that we emphasize in our program. Wait. Okay, this concept of critical and creative problem solving. We think it's so important that we've dedicated an entire session to it, our riddle session, where we challenge students to think their way through tough and sometimes counterintuitive problems. But rather than tell you about it, why don't we try one together? So it's a hot summer's day, and you go to the pool to cool off. You get thirsty there, and you reach for your water bottle, but as you lift it up, water starts spraying out near the bottom. Somehow, the water bottle has sprung a leak. Frustrated, you hurl the leaking water bottle straight into the air, and the question is this: what happened to the spouting water after you've thrown the water bottle? We can quickly come up with a few potential outcomes. Either the water can spout more, can spout the same amount, or it can spout less. and we should note that this behavior may change over the course of its journey. So I'm actually going to do the demo here live in a few seconds, but before I do, I want everyone in the audience, from the high schoolers to the CEOs, to take a guess. All right? Share it with your neighbor or keep it to yourself, but guess. That's part of the fun. All right, I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. Think about it. Think about it. All right, time's up. Okay, hopefully everyone can see this. Let's find out what happens. Okay, in 3, 2, 1. Whoa. Did you see that? For the sake of the next speaker, I won't do it again, but I do have a video here. The water stops completely on the way up and on the way down. And in fact, if we watch closely, it stops the moment I let go of the bottle, which I think is amazing, and I already knew the answer. So if you were right, fantastic. And if you weren't, I promise you're in good company. But the most important thing either way is that we understand why. Why does the water stop? Normally, this is where we turn it over to the students to discover for themselves. But for today, I'll lead an abbreviated discussion. Turns out this is a complicated problem, so let's break it down into some easier ones, like why does the water spout in the first place? All right, I think we'd all agree that gravity is involved. Gravity pulls the water down and out of the hole. Okay, but then what changes from when the water is spouting and when it stops? Well, as we observed, the water stops the moment I let go of the bottle. But that doesn't mean that gravity just turns off, right? What's the significance of me letting go of the bottle? Well, it means that I'm no longer applying a force to it. It means that the only force acting on the system is gravity. So really, it's just like being on a drop tower roller coaster. Because as we enter free fall, we accelerate downward with the ride under gravity. And our butts are no longer supported by the seat, and for a moment, we actually float there weightless. So when I let go of the bottle and stop applying my force, the water and bottle immediately stop pushing against each other, and they start moving together. And because of their initial velocity, they first free rise and then free fall, and the water's weightless the entire time. That's freaking awesome. And it doesn't stop there, because this is a really simple experiment to do, but its principles are extremely important. In this video, Dr. Brian Greene does the water bottle drop experiment on the Late Night Show with Stephen Colbert. And he explains that this thought experiment inspired Albert Einstein and ultimately led him to his theory of general relativity. And as a fun note, I've looked and I haven't found anyone who's done the water bottle toss experiment yet. So I think it'd be great if everyone in the audience did their own water bottle toss video and tweeted it to Dr. Greene, The Colbert Show, and Caltech. Hashtag Aerospace Expo. Get fun with it, right? And you can take a water bottle, you don't need to poke a hole in it, you can actually flip it upside down and throw it that way and the water will stop too. So everybody, make your own video and then come show us at our booth and you will receive your very own Caltech cup. We guarantee no leaks. So that's awesome. And it'd be super cool if we actually got their attention. But to add on to this, the principles in this experiment are used by the Bremen Drop Tower in Germany as well. They study microgravity. And they double their zero-G test time by not just dropping their test container, but actually catapulting it 120 meters up and letting it fall all the way back down. This amazing facility is used to study fields like biology and combustion and material science, as well as qualify hardware for future space missions. So we have theoretical physics, cutting-edge research, and space technology development. Clearly understanding this little demo has implications far beyond just water bottle physics. And with all this amazing stuff, let's step back and think about how we came to understand the water bottle toss in the first place. We took our hard problem and broke it into easier ones. We used an analogy to roller coasters to leverage our intuition and experience. Really what we did was use simple strategies to reshape our initial problem into something that we could solve by making small connections. Simple strategies like these are at the heart of critical problem solving. The hardest and most important problems in the world, some of which you heard about today, you won't immediately know how to solve or even how to start. But it's what you do after you don't know what to do. The tactics you use to reshape your problem, that is exactly critical problem solving. And these strategies aren't super tough. They're not reserved for the hyper-intelligent. They're simple. Everyone can learn to do them, which means everyone, you, can learn to solve hard problems. The key, as always, is practice. And that's one of the things that we emphasize in AMP. We constantly challenge the students with hard problems and ask them to reflect on their thought process to improve for next time. And I think it's been working. Because when we ask the students what skills they develop with us, the one that keeps showing up is problem solving. Not only do they grow in this way, but they recognize that they do, and they value it, which boosts their confidence to pursue more opportunities in STEM. Critical problem solving is a pivotal ability in education, in career, and in life, and anyone can grow it through practice. And I would argue to you that the best way to practice this skill is through internships at companies and universities like ours and the ones that are here today. Not only do you get to work with passionate people in amazing facilities on the coolest problems, but you get credit for it. You get someone to say that I vouch for the skills this person has cultivated. That can make the world of difference to an admissions office or a recruiter, and it's not something you should pass up. Opportunities, it's unfortunate, but people who deserve opportunities don't always get one. That's what a high-potential, low-resource student looks like. That's what Base11 is pushing to change, and that's why we're all here right now. Today was no accident. Ask anyone who helped set it up. It was made real for you. So take advantage and apply, because these opportunities work, and they could change your life. And so I'll leave you with one final idea captured by Nelson Mandela. In his quote, "I never lose. I either win or I learn." Once you've given your all to these hard problems, whether you got the answer right or wrong is really just a small detail. The most important thing is that you reflect on your experiences and you find a way to grow from them. All of us in this room, from now on, we never lose. We either win or we learn. Sound good? I know that if you embrace and embody this attitude, you'll be well on your way to being tomorrow's workers and leaders in STEM, ready for any problems and water bottles the world may throw your way. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank your colleagues as well that support the work that you do with the outstanding students in your program. Next up, I'd like to introduce John Tomblin. John Tomblin is the Vice President of Research and Technology Transfer and Bloomfield Distinguished Professor of Aerospace Engineering at Wichita State University. And he's also the Executive Director of the National Institute for Aviation Research. And I hope John is in the room.
Right beside
There
you.
you go.
Thank you. I got this.
All right.
Is this on? Yes. So I do not have any water bottle tricks, so I'm probably going to be boring. But what I want to do is heard a lot of California today. So I want to transport you to Wichita, Kansas, in the middle of the country. So that's what I'm going to do, is talk about why Wichita. Wichita goes by where the air capital of the world. A lot of people here don't know that. And the products and why am I here talking to you today? Why am I here talking about aerospace engineering? And why is aerospace so important in Wichita? And I'll talk about that. Everything you see here came from Wichita. So back to the early days, that's how we used to load a plane. That's one of the first Cessnas, that's how they tested the load on the wing, had people line up on it. And then things like the airborne laser, getting a laser to shoot out the nose of a 747. That's what we did in Wichita. And then every 737 fuselage ever made comes directly out of Wichita and gets shipped on a train to Seattle. So you may not know that about Wichita, but then we're the highest concentration of aerospace workforce in the nation per manufacturing employment. We're also number 3. We're ranked behind San Jose and Houston in the highest concentration of engineers. And I would say, ranking it from aerospace engineers, we're the highest concentration in the nation. So why is that so important? And what's Wichita doing differently? And my speakers before me, I mean, we're all encountering the same problem. It's the workforce. It's the workforce of the future and how we're going to do things a little bit differently. So the only way we're going to do things differently is by a partnership. I mean, you can kind of forget the way of a student used to graduate from aerospace engineering and then they had 3 or 4 job offers. I don't think that without an applied learning experience, that's going to happen in tomorrow's dates. And I'll show you why. So partnerships, key. Academia and industry together. So one of the things we did is if you look around the universities, and even UC Irvine has one of these I saw, is research parks. So luckily, Wichita has plenty of land around it, and we had a golf course, and we saw this approaching, and we said, okay, one of the things we're going to do is the golf course was bought for the expansion of the university. All right, we're going to expand it. And what are we going to do is we're going to build a research park. Last count I did, there were 178 research parks in the United States. So guess what we were going to do? We were going to do the same thing. And that's when the industry pushed back. We don't need a research park. We need to grow a workforce differently. And how I can use that plot of land to grow a workforce totally differently. And we said we were going to do this thing called the Innovation Campus. And what is the Innovation Campus? And I'm going to describe that to you. So let me rewind, especially you students. Some of you were in probably elementary at that time. But in 2009, the aerospace industry got hit pretty hard, especially in Wichita. The world economy got hit, and aerospace got hit. So in Wichita, there were roughly about 35,000 aerospace jobs that were lost. One of the problems, we heard again earlier today that an aerospace job is one of these high-paying jobs that lots of cities want. Because for every aerospace job, there's another 4 jobs that follow it. People that work at the mall, people that work at restaurants that follow that. So aerospace jobs were really sought after. So 2009, we laid off a bunch of workforce in Wichita. And then we still wanted to be the air capital of the world, so, and then they approached the companies, well, we need to hire, where we just laid off, so what we're going to do is we're going to consult out. And when we consulted out in Wichita, and all the local companies did it, is that usually left the borders of the United States. They chased a low-cost workforce. A lot of it went to India for a low-cost workforce. So we did that in 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. Then, as Dean Washington showed you, that graph of people retiring hits you. So, and as that graph hits you and people retiring, so they have Joe or Susan that used to work and 65 now retired, and they ask them, who did you pass on your knowledge to? Well, for the last 4 years, they've been running a workforce of 20 in India. So immediately, there was a massive panic. So what happened is they went to the governor, and they went to the legislature of Kansas, says, we got a massive shortage of engineers, and almost overnight, they passed a overwhelming amount of money, especially in Kansas, to say, we're going to produce more engineers. So it went to the university systems, and what we did is we found ways to produce more engineers. Okay, but then the problem came, is that the workforce changed. So simple math is I had one of Wichita's largest aerospace manufacturers needed 100 engineers. So I gave them, we did that. I gave them 100 engineers. I sent 100 kids down to get a job. And guess how many got jobs? None, which worried me. I had an aerospace engineer working at Starbucks. So that worried me. How are we going to change things differently? So, and the problem, so we investigated the problem. So I met with vice presidents from all the aerospace industries, and I said, what is the problem? What do you need from a future workforce? And let me just flip back one. This was the problem, is the startup time. You take somebody that's book smart, They make a 3.8 GPA, a very smart book, smart engineer, but they have no skills to be productive in a work environment. They say it takes them about 2 years. This is their slide, not mine. 2 years before an engineer becomes productive. So, and as soon as they invest the 2 years, guess what happens to the engineer? They jump, and they go get another job at another company. And in Wichita, you can do that. So they said, we're not investing that time anymore. So I've got a problem. So how can I get, because we want to hire people with experience, how can I get students that have experience and the company going after a low-cost workforce? So that is what we did with the Innovation Campus. So can I give them both? Can I give them a low-cost workforce, meaning students, undergraduate students, and combine it with a low-cost workforce? So, and get them experience. So can I do it? Well, in Beechcraft, if you go to the John Wayne Airport and you look at the general aviation side, about when I passed it today, I landed in John Wayne, I passed it today, there was probably 50% of the general aviation aircraft out there with Beechcraft aircraft. So comes from Wichita, Kansas. So the other part of it was at Cessna's. Again, comes from Wichita, Kansas, right here at your airport. So they decided that they weren't going to make jet aircraft anymore. So we're not going to make jet aircraft. That is not a market we want to pursue. We're going to make propeller aircraft. This 40-year aircraft, which is called a King Air, and a couple of them were sitting out at your airport. But the problem with that 40-year aircraft is we need to digitize it. We need to bring it into the modern world. So guess how they were going to do it? They're going to contract the whole thing to India. So that's when I approached them. I said, why are we doing this? Why don't I take a group of students and show you that with a group of 20 students, I can produce what an India workforce will give you. They said, John, this is the rebirth of our company. We're not going to trust it to a bunch of students. So I said, what about if I do the job for free with 20 students? I paid the students and I took the risk. And I said, let's look at cost, quality, and time of a workforce. And they said, well, if you're going to do the work for free, sure. We get double the work, or at least we get to check the work from the India workforce. So cost, quality, and time. And guess what? I won on all 3 categories with a group of students. So that you did that. So they said, John, we're going to buy what you're selling. How many students can you give us? So I went and trained 80 students, undergrad students, anywhere from 19 to 22 years old. So undergrad students, 80 of them I trained. Put them to work 26 hours a week while going to school. They went to school 16 hours, most of them averaged 16-hour workload in college, and then got paid. So they made their own scholarship. They didn't need a scholarship, they made their own. So, and they worked, during 3 years, they worked over 250,000 hours. So my takeaway is the bottom. Of those 80 students, I've got numerous amounts of examples now. 96% placement rate. I had a couple of them go be doctors. So they did not enter the workforce, they entered med school. But even though Beechcraft was not hiring at that time, they chose 38% of them, 35% of them. So they hired them immediately. 83% of them stayed local to Wichita because they had multiple job offers. And I lost a few of them to California. So that's what we're doing. That's what the Innovation Campus is about. It's about how I can create this collision where students learn by experience. And we had a whole campus to do that. So putting industry right on the campus. This is not, so I have the North American headquarters for Airbus, engineering headquarters for Airbus, right on the campus. So the life of a student, they go to class. They have 2 hours in between their next class. They go work at Airbus. Then they come back, take another 2 classes, then go back to work at Airbus. So they're building their resume. And then I found something interesting happen. Is the people that I pair the engineer with, the 55-year-old that I pair the 4 students with, and I still can't explain it, is the 55-year-old works harder. And they love passing the knowledge to the next generation. And there's dramatic things that happen in that. So I built the first building, had no classrooms in it, 0 classrooms. It was all hands-on laboratories, because that's what the industry said we were missing, is hands-on laboratories. And then we had to push the technology in it. So if I ask you, if I gave you one wish, what would you wish for? Somebody shoot something out. Money. Okay. If I could tell you that I can give you money if I let you look into the future and you predict the lottery numbers for Friday, and you could see the lottery numbers and you could go back and play them today, then you would get your money, right? Okay. So what we're at the cusp of now in engineering is being able to see in the future from a design manufacturing standpoint. If you look at the way planes were done before, I can actually see into the future. So the way planes were done before is they made a plane and says, we're going to produce 50 of these aircraft a year. And they designed the plane and designed the manufacturing line to produce 50 of these planes. And then time went on, and they said, now we want to produce 200 of these planes a year. Well, guess what? That design is probably going to be different. So what we're doing here with technology, with the SO systems, is being able to look into the future, being able to simulate the whole build on the manufacturing floor, and then come back and redesign the aircraft. So we have the ability now with simulation to look into the future. From an engineering standpoint, it's one of the greatest wishes that you could give an engineer. Another thing we're doing is looking at disruptive trends. All these things I'm jealous because you're going to get to do these things. And that's the jealous part. And the other thing is the time frame. Industry's not going, we heard one of our speakers here on the panel. They're not going to wait. They're not going to take 3 to 5 years to develop something. We got to do it in 90 days or less. So that's what we're doing. So aerospace engineer, this guy's up here talking about biz jets and everything. Well, I'm interested in space. So you saw Georgia with Virgin Galactic. You saw that crazy spaceship, right? That is designed to go into outer space. One of the lead engineers of that, my grad student, came from Wichita, Kansas. So thanks for listening to me. I'm going to lay this right here.
Thanks very, very much, John. I hope everybody was inspired by that as I was. Next up in our spotlight presentations, I am super excited to introduce Mr. Jeremy Bout. Jeremy is the producer and host of Edge Factor, a friend of Base11, and please welcome Jeremy to the stage.
To say that I'm a little bit intimidated by this group, I feel like there are so many smart people in this room. I cannot believe that there is a pin attached to some of the shirts in the room that says, "To Mars or Bust." I mean, this is crazy that we're talking about heading not to the moon, but we're talking about going so much further. The question is, as we've talked about, what's your role in all this? What is the thing that you're going to have said about you? What is the thing that you can say, I was a success. I did this. I was part of that team. I was the catalyst for this to occur. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about this. And I have this accent, about. Yes, I'm a Canadian. I am. It's like a curse, that last name right there. You say, hey, I'm Jeremy Bout. They go, he's either from, he's probably a Canadian. But I'm a filmmaker. What's a filmmaker doing on stage here to talk to you about space travel? Why am I with you guys today? Well, I want to play a little piece from something called Gnarly Metal to kick this off. And we have some audio that needs to go up here. And if you'd like, I can restart the video. You want me to restart the video? If you could walk me through give me a thumbs up when you're ready for the video. 'Tis the curse of every conference, wouldn't you say? Always an AV challenge at some point. And I am so blind I can't really see. So I'm going to step right out of the spotlight here. So let me tell you a little bit about Edge Factor. Our passion as a team is to bridge this gap. Anybody ever asked the question, when in real life will I use what I'm about to learn? I see one brave hand, I see a bunch more. Okay, I was totally that student, okay? But now we've been hearing from some people who are going, we are real life, and we need you. So we're storytellers with Edge Factor. And here's the story. Go ahead. Keep playing.
You know, every day we trust our lives to things, and we don't even really stop to think about that.
To what extreme will a man go to seek out the possibilities of his existence? What risk will he be willing to take to finally arrive at a place where he understands the limits? What would he be willing to do to push the boundaries of human experience? Is constant, the insatiable need to go faster, further, harder, and higher. Coming this fall, two worlds collide in the never-ending search for new innovation. The relationship between man and machine will give him the edge and a shot at the podium. Will they break the boundaries, or will the boundaries break them? The Edge Factor Show. Log in now.
Thank you. What was I thinking? Playing a video about somebody building bicycle parts at an aerospace conference. It's a good question. What's interesting, though, if you were to watch the video that was played about Virgin Galactic, pretty awesome. Seeing the technology they're using, actually, interestingly, is the same technology that you saw in that video. These are transferable things. In fact, it's not just aerospace that's struggling with the challenges of a qualified workforce. And so this journey for me, when I look back at what gets me fired up, I'll tell you what, I feel like a dud a little bit when I say that I came out of high school and I really had zero idea what I wanted to do with my life. I don't know about you guys, I'm guessing based on the number of hands I'm seeing going up, a lot of you guys are fired up about aerospace and engineering. But I had no idea what advanced manufacturing technology looked like until I had an uncle come into my life that said, will you come get a summer job working for me? And his idea of a summer job was the fact that he bought into a sales conversation about this new technology from Europe that was going to pour money out. It was a 5-axis CNC grinder. He introduced me to a diamond wheel. This wheel cuts carbide like butter. And I spent the summer learning a 5-axis machine that changed my life. Because you could make what I thought was a drill bit, something that you go to the corner store and you buy. I actually was making end mills, and then I was making step tools, and I was making all sorts of high-performance cutting tools that, guess what, is used to make pretty much everything. And I had no idea But I found myself going from learning about how it's made to starting to look at my colleagues and asking the question, whenever I looked at a new object or a new airplane or a new spaceship, instead of saying, how's it made, I said, who makes this? Because that's my colleague. That's the people that I work with every single day. And it was pretty exhilarating. I got to tell you, I found this old video, and we were developing these tools. You could do these great things on one side of our company. We were making these high-performance cutting tools, and we would walk them over to the other side of the shop, and the guys over there would stick it in, and we'd start testing it. And we would just be pushing these things really, really hard. Cutting metal like butter. These 5-axis CNC machines would do exactly what you tell it, and that's what happens when you don't tell it the right thing. It's a robot. It goes where the human tells it. You need good people running good equipment. And so this was me. This was my life. But it opened up this understanding that manufacturing and making stuff is incredible. I came to this realization that the sky's the limit is the word that we would use. And actually, after making parts for the Mars rover, I realized that the sky is not the limit. But you know what? I did come to this conclusion. You and I, we might be the limit. So my question to you is, do you want to be successful? We've been talking a lot about that here. That word success has come up a few times now. What does it take, though, to be successful? When I looked at my colleagues, when I looked at the people I worked with, that was actually pretty elusive. Was it when you made the best part ever? Was it when you empowered a company? You go ahead and roll the video. Was it when you bought that new car? That word success is actually pretty relative. And so I've told a lot of stories. I've met a lot of people. I have been introduced to a lot of incredible technology. But I found myself sitting down and wanting to write letters to all the people that I met. And I hope one day I get to write a letter to you. We call this Dear Success Letter. Dear Jake, when that beer bottle broke on your back after another drunken brawl and the cops raided your apartment, how did you escape the jail time that you deserved? When your father never gave up and he loved you through it all, was this the thing that set you straight and sent you back to school? Was it your time in college or the instructors who invested in you? The reason that you have a respectful attitude and that hard work is now part of your DNA. Did you ever imagine that you'd be waiting to stand in line to be counted, not as a convict, but as a graduate? Jake, be honest, how intimidating was it to interview for a company that was known for some of the most extraordinary acoustic architecture from around the world? Cathedrals, stadiums, airports, auditoriums. Jake, tell me, what gave you the courage to do a complete U-turn in your life? Dear Nicole, how did you deal with the fact that you were alone? And your decision to pursue making things is the right pathway for your future. Was it the first time that you built a robot that made you fall in love with being a creator? Weren't you intimidated by the fact that you were mocked for being the first in your family to go for a degree after high school? Now that you've worked your way through college and then university, how do you deal with the fact that you're a girl working with men that don't want you telling them what to do? How do you cope with the amount of technology that you are now responsible to integrate? I knew you were timid, but even I was shocked by your tenacity. You know, pushing back on that dude that was submitting subpar work was gutsy, especially considering you're half his age. Do you feel guilty about the fact that he quit because he couldn't handle a girl telling him what was done acceptably and what was not? Are you excited that your employers want to invest in your future and give you the freedom to explore advanced manufacturing technologies that even they have yet to learn. You know, standing at that racetrack, watching those performance vehicles must be a great feeling, knowing that you pushed your team to become competitive in the racing world. Your tenacity is paying back in dividends. Dear Ari, how could it be? The dream of touching the far reaches of space seems so unlikely, so unreachable. Those nights of dreaming and imagining as you stared into that telescope, who knew that your dream would be within your grasp so early in life? When you met your teacher, he suggested that while yet in high school, you would have the opportunity that most would only dream about, to work with NASA, to build tools for astronauts. What an honor, what a privilege, what pressure to know that if anything were to fail, that your name would be on the certificate as the one who had certified that that locker was made correctly, that the quality was there, and the parts were made to print. I know you dream about working in aerospace. How cool is it to think that a rocket ship will bring the locker with your signature on it to the astronauts working on the International Space Station? Ari, do you now understand that the math and the science that at times felt so irrelevant, so unnecessary, have set you up to continue on to pursue your dreams?
1. Ignition and liftoff of the Falcon 9 to the space station on the first commercial launch from Kennedy Space Center's historic Pad 39A.
Pad operations on Pad 9A.
Dear Montez, when you flicked the light on in your childhood rental home and the cockroaches scrambled for cover, did you ever imagine that things could get worse? When you watched the news as the riots took over the city and the CVS burned down on the streets that you once called home, how did you escape when so many others did not? Could you have ever guessed that when you chose to run with a different crowd that you would reap the reward of saving, not stealing your money? You were the first in your family to own a car and then build your own home. But Montez, I don't get it. The money was good, the cars were nicer. You were living the good life. So why did you go back to teach the people that you had worked so hard to leave behind? You're now the director of an organization that is devoted to training students to get skills that will allow them to build cars, airplanes, spaceships. You are equipping and impacting lives on a national level. In every case, you beat the statistics. But does it ever bother you that there are statistics to beat? As a white man, I must confess, I can't understand all that you've explained to me, of the lingering prejudices, of the irrational obstacles, the unwillingness to see that the color of one's skin is simply the wrapper for their soul, your willingness to take the good and leave the bad, to learn from and win over the ones who do not deserve to have you in their life. I feel compelled to ask you, Montez, teach me how to live like this, to love others even when they've done nothing to deserve it. Dear Mike, will the memory of the moment of impact haunt you forever? Does it drive you crazy to know when you were at the top of your game, you lost one of the most important assets to your lifestyle? When you looked down and you saw the blood, did you know that you were going to lose your leg? How did it feel to wake up and realize that you would not be able to finish the racing season, that the new sponsorship team was going to leave you, and you would no longer be a pro? When you strapped on that prosthetic limb for the first time, why did you just not settle for the best that the medical world had to offer you? What made you think that you could take an idea from your head and then build something with your hands that would begin to push back the edge of what's possible? Mike, was it not the best feeling ever to know that you not only competed in the X Games, wearing the Moto knee that you patented, but that you took the gold 3 years, 4, 5, 6 years in a row? Funny thing is, knowing you would not consider these achievements the highlight of your career.
Looking at my leg and just seeing it mangled, and I knew it was going to be gone. And I just remember thinking, well, I guess I won't snowboard anymore. And I remember trying to scream out to him, telling him I was injured. And next thing I know, he was on top of me, telling me I was going to be okay, and telling me to keep breathing. And he was obviously working on my leg. I think he tied the first tourniquet.
Watching that powerful moment when Keith was able to return to the mountain and ride his snowboard again. It was intense. Iraq may have claimed part of his body, but you have given him something back that cannot be earned on a podium. Thanks to your inventions, I'm watching countless athletes go on to be empowered to do amazing things. They're empowered to live their lives to the fullest because you continue to push. Mike, you have to know that you are rearranging what I see success to be. Dear success, I have so many questions. Am I successful when the collar around my neck is white and not blue? Am I successful when I can finally buy that car that I've always wanted, or the house of my dreams? As I reflect on the people that I've met and the ones who have earned my respect, I see that the answer is not in the degree that I hold or the accolades that I receive. But success is coming when I'm using my head and my hands to do what I was created to do. Perhaps when what I see in my mind, I connect with my hands, I start to imagine the ways that I can innovate new ideas, new technologies, empowering others. But this is when I'm starting to scratch the surface of what it means for me to be successful. If I wait for things to be handed to me, I'm waiting for someone to come and rob me of the satisfaction of working for the reward of receiving. If I think that a fancy degree is going to add meaning to my life, I have missed the point. It's what I do with the training that I receive that will bring true satisfaction in my life. If I want to fly to the moon or explore the universe, I will need to build into the team of people that I surround myself with. And so, maybe I need a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree, and then again, maybe not. Maybe I will wear a white collar, maybe I will not. But dear success, I know that working hard, dreaming big, taking responsibility, serving others, and loving my family during my short time here on Earth will always be at the heart of what I choose to call success. So this is what we do. This is what we do. Thank you. So I can't speak to everybody here, but I can tell you that I have learned a lot from listening, and that was pointed out earlier. Sitting down with people and listening to their stories and realizing that every one of us is unique. We have unique challenges. I can't help the fact that some of you are going through some painful experiences. I can't help the fact that some of you grew up in an affluent home, or you didn't. I can't change these realities, but I can tell you how you react to things are going to totally change whether or not you are in the group of people that take advantage of the opportunities right now that are everywhere. You are hearing all of these leaders saying, we need good people. They didn't say we just need bodies. They said we need good people. And so as I look back, I think about all of the people that I've met, but I have to make this disclaimer. It's not going to be handed to you. You may not realize that this is really important for you to get, because a lot of people want to win that lottery. The last thing they need is that lottery. And sometimes you don't understand how important it is to work hard for the thing that you're looking for. In fact, the joy in the journey sometimes, that process, it's not always the end result that is the good thing. It's the joy. It's the people you surround yourself with. I will tell you that if you're willing to work hard, you will stand out right now, because there are a lot of people that want the handouts. They want that thing given to them, and I will tell you, I feel so sad for them. In fact, a lot of people that grew up in a very affluent home, my heart goes out to you in many ways, because you've been robbed sometimes of the joy of having to earn your money. You've been robbed of the fact that, you know what? There's a lot of really good memories that come from going from the bottom. So for those of you today who are struggling, coming from a poorer district, whose parents maybe don't have a lot of money, guess what? You're in for a good time, because you hold the keys in your hand to changing what your future looks like. Work hard. Don't expect a handout. It's cancerous. You know what? Failure. It sucks. Embrace it. I have learned this over and over. We have failed as a team with Edge Factor on numerous things. And the first thing I used to do was want to pass the buck and say, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. It was too bad. You know what? I've had to learn that you have to embrace these moments, because they are the best moments of your life. You can learn so much in that moment. If you can breed an environment as an industry leader where you can allow people to fail and then learn in that moment, you will get the best out of people. Teach yourself to ask the right questions also in that moment. What happened? We had a breakdown. Okay, so what was my role in that? Could I have helped somebody else through that moment? Did I pass the blame to them? What was my role in this? Learn from that moment of failure, because when you learn to harness failure, crazy good stuff happens. Another thing, you got to get out of your comfort zone. Sometimes I look at people and I'm like, man, you've been in your basement too long, dude. You've been playing video games for too long. You were giving the best years of your life to a stupid contraption that's not giving you anything back. And no, there's probably not going to be a job video game testing. Okay? But the truth of the matter is, sometimes getting out of your comfort zone is the best place to find yourself, because that's when that magical thing happens. Maybe for some of you today, got you out of a comfort zone. Maybe you were dragged along to this event. Maybe you had a teacher that grabbed you and pulled you into this. I don't know. Maybe all of you are just crazy passionate about getting to Mars. Whatever the case is, push the limits. Figure out how to get involved with things that are out there a little bit. And you will find that in those moments, you start to learn a little bit. But another thing, sometimes you learn in that moment what you don't want to do. Because sometimes you think, oh, that's what I want to do. And then when you pursue it and you get there, you realize, yeah, that's not what I want to do. In fact, those little letters, D-O, I talk about this all the time with people. I get so exhausted when I have that big mouth person say, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go do that. Well, what are you doing? Actually, what are you doing? Not going to, what are you doing? I had an uncle that told me one time, he says, you know what happens when you sit on your hands? You get warm hands. That's it. Don't sit on your hands. The fact that you're here today is probably a really good sign, but don't let this end. Get out there at 4 o'clock, although we're probably running late. Get out there and explore. You might not want to open your mouth to talk to some of the other students. You may not want to engage with some of the exhibits. Get out and do. I will tell you, magical things happen. And again, you might learn what you don't want to do and save yourself a whole pile of tuition going to a college studying something that you had no business studying because you weren't cut out for that. But that only happens when you're exploring things, when you're actually out there doing things. Be a problem solver, not a spotter. Take responsibility. This is another really, really big deal. A lot of people, they want to throw challenges onto other people when they're faced with them. I look at Montez. You know, he could have easily succumbed to some very reasonable things. He was faced with some ugly people who said ugly things. He grew up in the most ugly part of America that I have ever visited in West Baltimore. Shocking. I had no idea that places like, I have traveled the world, and I did not know there were places like that in America. But you know what? Montez, he rose above that. And it was not right what other people did to him. And it may be that there are people that are doing things to you that are not right, but you have to still take responsibility and rise above these things. He could have been really angered. He could have blamed people. But the fact is, this man is in charge of a national organization because he continues to stand out. And I don't care what skin color you have. When you take responsibility and you're a team player and you work hard and you engage with the people that you surround yourself with and you help them towards their goals, I got to tell you, you are going to stand out. And then I'm going to have the opportunity to tell your story one day. To Mars or bust. I love that little thing. It's your head and it's your hands. So the question is, what are you going to do to get to Mars? And how are you going to play a role in the next big discovery? It's your head, your hands, your decision. And so on that note, we are going to get into some Q&A time. I think my countdown clock stopped, but I'm going to wander off the stage here and I'm going to pick up. If I could ask, are these the t-shirts that I can start to throw at people? I usually like them harder with a cannon. That's my favorite. Okay, so we're going to ask the speakers to climb up, get on stage. Who has a question right now that will ask me? I am a firm believer in taking responsibility and giving bribes. You have a question for me? This young lady right here. Okay.
So you believe that it's not about where you come from, it's about where you're going?
Yes.
Yet there's people that feel that because of the place that they come from, they are tied down to it.
Yes.
What would you say to empower them?
Okay, so the question was, do I believe that you can pretty much go anywhere?
Yes.
It does not matter where you came from. I absolutely believe that. And my answer to that person is, you know what? We are storytellers for a reason. Stories matter. Stories speak to people. And we, just in that short thing, we showed we live in an amazing, amazing country. America, Canada, there are so many amazing things that can happen. You have to play a role in it, but it can happen because it is happening. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's going to be hard. And it's not going to be pleasant. But absolutely, there is opportunity. So, bribe here. All right, I'm going to hand this off. We have a moderator, maybe. Do I move on here?
Yes. Yeah, great. So thank you for kicking that off. So who's got a question for us? Back here in this young man right here. We're not using the mic. Sorry. This young man. Yes. Go ahead. Speak to me. Go ahead. I'll repeat it.
So as entrepreneurs, do you guys just do all the paperwork, or do you guys like to interact with people?
As entrepreneurs, do the entrepreneurs do all the paperwork, or do they work with engineers? How does that actually work? Can someone comment on that? Yo. Who asked the question? There you go. Someone take that, please.
So every entrepreneurship team that we've seen is different. Some of the entrepreneurs are very technical, some are on the business side, and so it really depends. But everyone needs attorney help. So attorneys handle a lot of the paperwork, but if you're talking about design, patents, it could be someone on the team, or it could be someone that they bring on to help.
Thank you. Yes, right here. No, go ahead. I'm going to repeat it. Go ahead.
Okay, so for young aspiring engineers who are entering the industry, what's the advice from the speakers for maintaining your passion in the field, and then perhaps finding like a specific field that within the aerospace that you're interested in?
So so if I may, for young, thank you. For young engineers entering the field, how do they maintain their passion, and how do they figure out what their real interest is? How do they seek out what really their calling is? What would you recommend? Would someone like to speak to that?
Yeah, I think it's really about taking risks to some degree. I think you need to start someplace and also use your voice. If you feel that you want to change, don't be afraid to go to your management and say, I'm really looking for something different. Try different things. The time in your career to do that the most is when you first start. And my recommendation is always go deep, really get a technical foundation, and then start to broaden out and reach out into multiple facets. I know I did that in my career. And I made a 180-degree turn in many cases, and that was about taking risk. Don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to use your voice, and you will definitely find your passion. And once you do expand beyond that, it really does bloom.
I often tell students, you already know what you like and what you don't like in school. Keep heading towards what you like. In my own experience, I like to say I treated college like a smorgasbord, like a buffet. And I just tried to taste everything. I think I went through 6 majors in my first 6 semesters before I found something I really loved. And I was lucky enough to do that. Not everyone does. There's a question right here. Yes, go ahead.
So what can we do if we are interested in some technological innovation, but because of some rules and regulations, we can't work with some companies, all the space companies, because there are some rules and regulations. So what can be done? Because if somebody's sitting in this hall and he has or she has an idea that can change the world or that can change the space exploration field, then what can be done?
So the question is, there are limitations for certain students working in certain companies or certain parts of certain companies on certain projects, you're saying, due to...
If they are from some different country.
Some from a different country, maybe not a U.S. citizen, and yes, there are those limitations. Any advice for how to get involved in those technologies? It looks like Jason's got the mic. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, I think the first thing is don't limit yourself to the U.S. I mean, more and more today, companies are looking globally for talent and looking globally for solutions. So a good idea here is only as good as we can make it and sell it, and that same idea can be used elsewhere. So those of you that do have, say, non-U.S. status, and it's very difficult to get into military or space technology, there's other opportunities. And another way that you can do it is to get into similar technology in non-restricted areas. So again, from my standpoint, we have half of the company that is commercial, half of the company that is defense and space.
Okay, let's go on this side of the room over here. Go ahead.
With all these large space companies like SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, Blue Origin, how can a small company like a startup, in a way our student project is a startup with very few resources, how can startups and small companies compete in this space race?
What's your advice for startups and small companies? You got these big gorillas on stage, and many of them here speaking. It's intimidating for startups and small ventures, and this is part of the Cal Poly team here. So any advice?
Go Cal Poly. So your speed intimidates the giants. So the advice is continue moving quickly.
You know, it's funny that you asked that too, because I know I'm here as a Northrop vice president, but I can tell you that I actually spent 4 years in the startup industry. I worked at a startup down in Irvine, and learned a lot about what it takes to really be successful there. And I was a vice president there for a business area that did DVI to set-top box to plasma TVs. Very different than what you heard me say about James Webb Space Telescope. So don't limit your career. You know, do more than one thing, because that perspective gave me a whole nother perspective of how I engaged the company.
Great advice. Thank you. We got a question here. Yes.
One of the things that were mentioned earlier is that all the companies, they want kids or the students to have a little bit more experience, so they take on like internships and stuff like that. How would you manage your schoolwork and your internship to make sure it's not overloaded?
Any advice on, maybe the folks from schools want to talk about any advice on how do you balance your schoolwork and your internship? You know, we've all emphasized the importance of work experience, hands-on experience. How does a student balance that?
I'd say it's a partnership. So, I mean, I have close to 400 students in that, and they range from doing 5 hours a week to 26 hours a week. So, and I think every student's different. So, if you're only limited to 5 hours a week, still do the 5 hours a week. It still goes on your resume. You might not make as much money as a 26-hour person, but it still goes on your resume.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's all about time management. It may sound cliche, but time management is a skill that even us graduate students are still learning right now. So you just have to know what your priorities are. If you value something more than others, then I like to say, we always make time for the things we love. So if you value school, make time for it. You value internship, equally make time for it. Now, we are not asking you to choose, because you can certainly combine both. So just find it within yourself to work with the time you have, and we all have the same amount of time in a day, and prioritize what you think is important to you and go from there.
Very, very good comment. Time management is an incredibly important professional skill. How many of us find ourselves procrastinating when we know we should be doing something? Yeah, right, exactly. I got a lot of hands for that one. Yeah. I didn't even ask for hands, and I got the hands. We got a question here.
Yes, sir. This is a two-part question. What do the big industry look for in college grads for entry-level jobs? And does a 4-year degree make the cut now to be competitive, or do you have to have a master's or further?
Oh, good question. So what is industry looking for in graduates nowadays, and is it required to have a 4-year degree or more?
The short answer is a 4-year degree, but there are certain areas in research and development, for example, where maybe a master's or a PhD would be beneficial. But in general, where we see the biggest demand is in our electrical, software, system engineers, mechanical engineers, chemical. So there is certainly the broader 4-year opportunities versus masters and PhDs.
I'll offer another perspective, and I think I mentioned this before earlier, is that we are really starting to go out and bring in more and more interns. I can tell you that I was a co-op myself when I started my career. Honestly, I may not be an engineer today if I hadn't done that during my schooling, and that was really important to really spark my interest and to understand how industry works. And I think that's so important for us to reach out beyond into the college years, where we're bringing on sophomore, juniors, and they're truly understanding what it's like to work in that environment, because I think it benefits both of us. It's not just a one-way street. I think you have a choice to make, and we do too. So I think it's a great way to do it.
Yeah, my quick comment would be it very much depends on what kind of work you want to do. So a good thing to do is talk to people that you work with and ask them what kind of degrees they have and what that enabled them to do. I mean, community colleges are often producing very, very capable technicians who get involved with very technical work. If you find that rewarding, that may be an endpoint for you in your education. Everyone is different in terms of what kind of work they want to get involved with.
Al, can I just add on?
Go ahead, Jason.
At Wichita State, where they were also looking at how to compress the time to become productive,
right.
Companies today are also looking at internships as a way for us to get more experienced people into the workforce. So if we hire those individuals as full-time, they've already got a stint or maybe 2 stints with us where we can see their performance as well as they get the experience working with the same tools and the same kind of job tasks.
And the comment was made earlier, you have the opportunity also in school with things like robotics programs, engineering projects, et cetera, to get involved. And that counts. And make sure you put that on your resume, and make sure you get your teachers or advisors or coaches to write you a recommendation letter. That's powerful. I got 2 more shirts. We only have so much time, so I'm going to take a question here, and then I'm going to take one more. Go ahead. Great question. How do you handle rejection? Any advice for I mean, we've all had it happen.
Well,
is that fair? Is that your question? Okay.
I can speak from the point of view of a current student. So I have to say, when I'm going to tell you a little bit of story of mine. When I was applying from undergraduate for grad school, I actually happened to go to Wichita State University. And you apply to different schools, and you don't know which ones you're going to get into. And the letters come in, you get into some, you don't get into others. But I have to say, you just have to accept the fact that you didn't get in, first and foremost. And in turn, you have to ask yourself, did I do the best I could do? When it comes to something, if I know I put my best foot forward and the results don't follow, I cannot blame myself. I did the best I could do. But I always have remorse when I know I could have done better. I should have done something extra. So to that question then, I'm going to say, always make sure you put your best foot forward. Don't leave anything behind. And whatever the result is, I'm sure you're going to be happy with it.
So let me follow on. It's a little bit flavored, a little bit differently than rejection. Whiteside showed you Spaceship One, right? Well, I know the history of one of the lead engineers there because I watched him grow up. He was not the best student. You would think he made A's. He designed a commercial spaceship. He did not make A's. He was mid-level. When he was in my lab, he approached me and said, I want to build surfboards. And I let him do. I said, I'm going to take extra composite material that we're using, and I'm going to let you build wind surfboards. And that's what he did. And he created a business and sold them. And then now he's designing Spaceship Two. So never let anybody stop you. And I mean, the rejection of the grades, don't get down on that. Because I always say the C students are the ones that donate buildings to the university.
It's true. I would also add to that, it's back to the conversation about failure. This is a form of failure, and that sounds like a bad word to a lot of people, and yet if you can learn to just reverse that and see failure or rejection at times as an opportunity. And again, sometimes that can feel a bit trite, but literally just sit back and ask yourself, what could I have done differently? What's my role in this situation? And then learn from that, because maybe you were rejected because you did something wrong. We're all human. We all make mistakes. But there's redemption. And there will be another time. And there will be another time if you don't just sit there and go, I was rejected. Because that is the temptation, is you're rejected once and you don't try again. And that's the worst thing that you could do. So step forward, learn from anything that maybe your role was, and it could be that your role was, there was nothing that you could have done differently, and that's too bad, but that means you should still try again. Just keep stepping forward. I think that's the key thing.
Thanks, Jeremy. Okay, we got one last question. We're going to, go ahead.
The thing is, for every engineer, they say that until you get hands on the particular object, you won't grow up much. But there's very less internship opportunities for people, foreign students who come to work in companies. So what do you say about that? How are we supposed to go about tackling those situations?
So we're telling all these students they need hands-on experience, but he feels as a foreigner here, there's less opportunity for that, less internships, less opportunity for in aerospace especially. So what's your advice for students that feel they may not have the same access to opportunities?
I put the aerospace company on the campus. Then there's no international roles. They're on the campus. You can work there.
Okay.
I put them on the campus. So good. You can check the international rules. I'm in compliance because I agree. Aerospace companies now are worldwide companies. They need employees around the globe. So that's how I got around.
Any other comments from our panelists on that?
Another option is to really dive into research, which you can do on campus in a very hands-on way, and it could lead into a startup that then sells a solution to one of these big aerospace companies. And I'm going to sneak in another comment to the failure question. One thing that's really important for me anytime I fail at something is forgiving myself. Because sometimes you're so hard on yourself. Did I do everything right? And you don't recognize that there could be forces that you really have no control over. And so making that step to say, you know, it's okay, you're not that bad, you're still a decent enough human being, is huge. So forgive yourself after a failure.
Great, thank you. You guys had a lot more questions, and I thank you for that. So what I'm going to remind you is we're all going to be available at this expo in just about 5 minutes because we're heading down the home stretch. We're going to wrap this session up. So would you please join me in thanking all the speakers and panelists? And I want to thank you very much. You're very kind. So I'm going to toss the program back now to Landon Taylor, the CEO of Base11, to wrap things up for us.
All right, we're almost there. Almost there. Did you guys like today? Yeah, round of applause, like today? Okay. So we are going to, this has been a great session. We're going to do this again next year. So watch your emails about where we will do it, but I think it's been a smashing success, so we'll look forward to doing it again next year. So the last thing that we want to do, we've got some prizes for those of you who have kind of stayed engaged, so thank you for being here. We're going to give you some prizes. We certainly want to thank, again, everyone that has made this possible, especially, we said it earlier, but there's two people who did an amazing thing. Is Taylor in the audience? Or is she outside? Taylor from UCI. Give her a round of applause. Taylor, right back there, did an incredible job. And from the Base11 team, the person who coordinated with amongst all of the organizations to make this possible, Christine Bird, give her a round of applause for her help. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close out with giving you the prizes, and then going to give you some direction about going outside. But before I do that, I just want to make, before we have the prizes, students, are you guys fired up? Are you fired up? Okay. All right. All right. So we're going to give you. I'm going to give you the prizes, and what I probably should do is tell you the instructions now, because once I do the prizes, then you'll be like, I'm out. Right? So the I know. So the instructions, there are two, that's what happens when you have adult children. You've gone through the process and you know what's going on. So you have two, our expo is located in two places, both outside these doors and also inside, okay? So outside there's a lot of outdoor things to do, and then inside are a lot of the companies that are here. Their booths are right there. So we've asked the speakers, and they've been kind enough to stay for about 40 minutes after and be at their booth. So if you want to go engage with them, make sure you get to do that first. But if you start inside, go outside. And if you start outside, do what? Go inside. So you can make sure that we see everything, okay? All right, so we're going to do a couple of, by the way, you got to be in the room to win. That's like the rule. And so we've got, the first thing I'm going to do is the Cal Poly Sharpa. It's a really cool Cal Poly blanket. It's awesome. Let's see if Sean Ton is in the room. Is Sean here? Sean Ton, is it? Come on up, Sean. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. All right. Wait a minute. Are you at Cal Poly? Do you want that? I mean, you're okay. All right. Okay. He was like, yeah, I need a blanket. No, it's all good. All right. And so next is the labs, the X Labs gift card. X Labs gift card. Ashley Orta. Is Ashley here? Come on up, Ashley, for the X Labs gift card. Okay. The Base11 Google Cardboard. We've got these VR, the Google Cardboard. We have Google Cardboard, and you'll be able to use, your cell phone to be able to, download and do your thing. We've got 2 of those. So how about Ryan Erickson? Ryan Erickson. Ryan, are you here? No. Lindsley Mercado. Right back there? All right, Lindsley, there you go. And Ashley Anderson. Ashley Anderson. Is Ashley here? Ashley here? Okay. How about Cassie Martinez? Come on, Cassie, there you go. And for the UCI gift bag, how about Jessica Ramirez? Come on, Jessica, there you go. And for this really cool, if there's an engineer in the house, Al Bunshaft brought this really cool backpack, that SolidWorks backpack that's pretty amazing. It has all these great things in it. Everybody's fired. Look at the engineers are fired up. Branson Davis. Is Branson Davis here? All right, Branson. Give Branson a round of applause. Branson gets that. It's awesome. Okay. And so for the rest, was that Virgin? Okay. So how about Shadi? Okay. The Virgin swag bag. Come on up. Shadi, the Virgin. Okay. And then what do we have left? Do we have okay. So we have 4 things? Okay. If Alyssa Webb, are you here? John Powers. Okay, Alyssa, come on up and get a prize. Gary Williams, are you here? Gary Williams. Kristen Okano. And Kenny Romero. No? Okay. So for the balance that are here, come to which booth? The Base 11 booth, and you're going to be able to get the balance of these prizes that are here. Okay? So last thing, remember the advice. Develop your playbook, right? Come up with your strategy that you want, right? Number 2, go engage at the top. So go out to these booths, go engage with the leaders, and follow your passion. So at this point, what would be awesome is if we could do this, the first half of the room, if you guys can start by going this direction outside, and the second half of the room, yes. Oh, the rest of these gifts. That means the rest, the remaining ones, the ones that we didn't give out, the rest of them we got left. Go to the booth, you'll get them. The second half of the room, okay, would you guys please go that direction, and that way we can speed up. Have a great time at the expo. Enjoy.